Last week I got an amazing opportunity to go to the AI in K-12 education conference here in Nashville. It was a really interesting opportunity. We got to see a few different panels of, companies, leaders who were talking about, different programs they were creating or had created and the data that came from these programs. They talked a lot about, what it looks like for teachers to use AI, what it looks like for the whole entire, district to use AI and try to understand how to use AI within, a K-12 space just in general. So it was very eye-opening. And I thought there were some really amazing speakers who got the chance to, do some networking as well. However, and there's a big however, because although this event was really amazing, I think every speaker had something really amazing to present. I'm really hopeful for a lot of the programs that they have. But I was a little bit bothered by the fact that I didn't hear a lot of conversation around student wonder and about like student engagement. And I think the reason that I kind of struggle is because I've had a chance to see, a variety of classrooms and kind of experience the K-12 environment and how there's been a huge shift from students genuinely being curious about their education, like coming into the classroom and having the opportunity to explore new ideas and concepts, to explore the world and, kind of engage with wonder. That now it's kind of changed to being more about compliance. And the interesting thing about this is, whereas a lot of like social media platforms, you'll find that people are talking about how AI is kind of stripping the creativity and the wonder and the, opportunities for inquiry away from students. I don't necessarily believe that. I actually think that AI is really amazing at highlighting the fact that wonder is just not there anymore. The fact that student inquiry is not really there anymore. And the fact that exploration is no longer really a main staple to K-12 classrooms. This is something that I think we have to continue to explore, because what education becomes is like this sort of this giant list of boxes that we're ticking, just to make sure that we're in compliance, just to, make sure our students can pass a test, or just to make sure that our teachers are being held accountable for planning a certain way or teaching a certain way or teaching particular content. And I think that when we treat education like that, we're taking one of the most key aspects of development, which is curiosity. We're taking that away from our students. But not only are we taking it away from our students, I'm starting to see that it's also being stripped away from our teachers. Now, I'm not saying that there's like a mandate out there just saying like no wonder allowed or no creativity allowed, but what I'm seeing is that the pressure is so high for educators to, be able to meet certain expectations, to be able to, hit certain markers, whether that be on like benchmark assessments or the main assessment or EOC at the end of the year for districts. I'm just noticing that there's less emphasis on whether or not the student is actually participating in the discovery of this whole broader world of life, rather than just doing what they're told and just answering questions. And you'll find that this happens a lot in different curriculums, right? I've seen a variety of different curriculums, but a lot of times under the guise of student-led inquiry is, really just people designing questions for the students, but rarely do the students have to ask their own questions. Very rarely are students given the space to, create worlds on their own without the use of, all of these sort of extra tools that are out there. And I know look, there are a lot of different programs that are out there, and I'm not saying that they're not wonderful. I think they are. I think they're all very excellent, and I think they're so excellent that it's stripping some of the opportunity for both our teachers to ask more questions and be curious about the world that they live in, but then also it's trickling down to our students. So, I think that's a question we have to really continue to fight with. Are we willing to strip our students' wonder and creativity and curiosity away just so that we can make the classroom environment run more smoothly or have a higher likelihood of meeting expectations? Or is there a point where we're going to have to sacrifice some of these goals in order to maintain something that's much more precious, right? But even with our teachers, I think a lot of times are not thinking about what they're actually doing in the class. And I've seen this. I saw this in one way that was hilarious to me, but it was also sad. Like I was observing a teacher and kind of evaluating, and I noticed that once the PowerPoint slide no longer had information for the teacher to say, the teacher no longer spoke. And for someone who's not in education, you might be like, well, why don't they just go to a new PowerPoint? But for someone who's in education, you kind of are like, man, you should know how to speak about your topic to the point where you don't need a PowerPoint to tell you what to say. You don't need a one pager to keep you on, track. The information because you continually learn the information. You're continually asking questions. You're continually engaging with the communities that are, having these deep critical thinking talks, whether that's articles or books or whatever, podcasts, any of those things. You're continually trying to develop your craft for the next generation of students. But it's possible that because of scripted curriculums or really structured curriculums that give teachers the tools that they need in a more streamlined way, maybe it's stopping teachers from being resourceful, from being creative, from taking the content and making it their own. Maybe it's stopping teachers from feeling as though they need to continually develop themselves and what they know. Maybe it's stopping teachers from challenging some of the preconceived ideas that they have or have had in the past. So it's kind of like the leaders in our classes are really just repeating the same information or repeating thoughts and ideas from someone else who they may not even be, really researching. So the situation gets really, really interesting. I think in these AI conversations moving forward, we have to continue to think about how the students are experiencing wonder and how they're experiencing curiosity and what tools they're given to navigate those areas. A student does not need a laptop to get curiosity. A student does not need an AI program to enhance their ability to wonder about the world. Really what they need stories, they need pictures, they need conversations with people involved who've experienced the world in a variety of different ways. Now, I'm not saying you strip away AI or strip away a computer or strip away, any of the tools they might be using now, but that stuff should be meant to enhance something that already exists, not to replace something that's not there. So, thinking about those things, if you find yourself in a conversation about school curriculum or AI integration, think about how the learner and the teacher really, how are they given permission to continue to push forward in their curiosity and in their wonder? Because without it, man, we're just robots. We're just robots repeating things. And, a world like that would suck, basically. Anyway, if you, have an interesting take on what I just said, or maybe you've experienced something a little bit differently, or maybe the same, maybe you have some encouragement, I don't know. just leave it in a comment. You can definitely reach out to me on LinkedIn, Davon Miles. It should show up, I think, Davon Miles, like PhD or something like that. But you can find me. I'm easy to find. Or send me an email or whatever. And let's chat. Let's talk. Leave a comment, whatever. Anyway, I'll see you guys later. Hope you have a good life. And, keep digging. Later.